So I recently overheard a question that I loved and it really stuck with me. It's, do you know your cost per enrollment? I like it because I work with charter school administrators daily and none of them actually know this. These same administrators throw thousands of dollars a year at marketing, but they don't know one, what their return is, and two, if what they're doing is even effective out of this world. I wish we lived in a world where you could throw $10,000 at a wall and meet your enrollment goals. But in reality, it simply doesn't work that way. Charter Connect is a breakthrough company that tells you down to the penny what your cost per enrollment is. So you know exactly how to reach your goals. And man, can I say that they are good. For example, we just met with a school out in California last week and realized that their website traffic has quadrupled since using Charter Connect. Really? It's a no brainer. The best part is if you send them your info on the website, charterconnect.co, with the promo code connection in the description, you will get 10% off your first month. Tell them Jenna sent you. The Charter School Connection podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Packed Class, an enrollment and lottery process platform built for charter schools by charter schools to save money while making money. Good morning, and welcome to this week's episode of the Charter School Connection podcast. This week, I'm here with Dan Lovato from San Diego Riverside Charter School in New Mexico. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us today. We're excited to talk to you and get to know you a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay. So, how did you get started in charter schools in general?
Wow, that's a great question. And actually, more recently in my career, I've been asked that question. Really hadn't thought about it. Yeah, so charter schools was like really new whenever I was coming out of college. So my teacher preparation programs really didn't touch on charter schools. I didn't know what a charter school was until I landed at one. So the story is, in college, I formed a band with a bunch of former athletes. And we were asked to test a bigger market because we were getting a little bit bigger and we wanted to see what we were really made of. And so, long story short, we ended up coming out to Albuquerque and hitting the music scene. And unfortunately, music doesn't really pay very well,
Yeah.
especially when you're starting off. And so, as much fun as we were having, all of us kind of got hit with the real world,
Mhm.
and we realized we needed to get some our careers going as well. And so I was working for I got a job working for a temping service. Kelly
Mhm.
Services was what their name was, the organization. And I ended up doing my first stint with a group of doctors and lawyers out at this fancy hotel where they were creating what would become one of our new hospital locations here in New Mexico, which is called the Rust Hospital out on the west side of Albuquerque. And so when I came back and gave them my report and kind of submitted my timesheet to that organization I was working with, they said, "Oh, we didn't know you had a background in education." So I said, "Well, you never asked. I didn't know you had anything to do with education." And
Right.
they actually specialized on helping people get their educational assistant license, substitute license, and placing them in schools for support. And so they caught wind of that, and then they sent me to La Resolana Leadership Academy, a charter school that was located in the heart of Albuquerque. And I just remember thinking to myself, what the heck is a charter school? So I landed there as their PE teacher, kind of fill in,
Mhm.
and also supporting the math and science department. And then within about a 3 month span, the other teacher was let go, and I was asked to take over the duties until they could find somebody. And then my boss at that time also found out that I had a background in science. And so it was a perfect storm. I eventually signed a contract with them. I finished my student teaching, which was the one thing that I was lacking to get my degree. And I finished that all within that first school year. And gosh, I was with that school for 12 years. Then, unfortunately, they had a closure due to corrective action plan in the special education department, and some other things that had gone on. But it was a great school for our kids. It was a great opportunity for me to build programming And then I've made a career in charter schools. Yeah, after that 12 years, I landed 3 years at Mark Armijo Academy, a high school in the South Valley, which was an incredible journey. Made some great friends, did some great things with them, and then I was the principal at Turquoise Trail Charter School up until November when I was asked to step in at San Diego Riverside Charter School as their director and principal.
That's so interesting. It's so like such a random path to get there. It
You're,
sounds like you're in the right place at now. Like,
you're telling me I originally started off in broadcast journalism.
oh
Uh,
wow,
and I had some on-air experience. We were given a really I was part of a really great program at Eastern New Mexico University, and unfortunately things didn't fall in place the way I really wanted them to. I wanted to be more informative and challenge the media section, and I was not allowed to do that, but it was a great experience. And then I changed my degree in education, and I didn't look back.
that's awesome. It's maybe you should be hosting the podcast instead. Got a degree in that. So you said you've been at the school since November,
I
and
have.
how did that position fall into your lap? Did they
Yeah,
just reach
I was
out?
looking to make a bit of a change from Santa Fe, and some of the network that I'm a part of, public charter schools in New Mexico, and some other groups, they'd kind of started telling me that this school out in the Pueblo might need a little bit of support. And I remember when they approached me, they said this San Diego Riverside Charter School might need some new leadership, and I said, I'm not moving to California. And
Yeah,
they said, no, no, it's out in the Jemez. And I had realized that I'd had friends that have worked here, colleagues that have worked here. It's an amazing place. And so I think it was just the right time and the right location, to allow me to step in and help this school out. And I've been here, like I said, since November, and we've got a lot of things that needed tending to, and
yeah.
I think we've taken care of business, and I'm really excited to finish off this school year here, and I'm really excited for the next few years. I would like to be around long enough to oversee their next charter, and bring in some new programs and implement some new ideas. So yeah, I'm really excited and I'm honored to be here with this community.
That's awesome. It sounds like if you've already been able to make so many changes since November, you're definitely on the right track for
Yeah.
some big changes. And I heard through the grapevine that your school is a little bit unique for charter schools.
Yeah, we are one of the only charter schools in the state that is a public charter school located on the on a pueblo. So yeah, it's an interesting setting. It's a beautiful setting, and I'd say about 98% of our students are indigenous, and they're local from the Jemez Pueblo. You know, really rooted in cultural heritage and art and language. It's just such a unique place. I mean, I'm learning something new every single
Yeah.
day here. I'm challenged. I learn something new everywhere, but this has really been a great journey, I guess you can say, because again, only being here a few months, it's eye-opening. And yeah, the arts. I was talking about that earlier, you know, the celebrations and the feast
Mhm.
days that they have here, and the traditions. It's very unique to New Mexico, and every pueblo, you know, I've visited different pueblos and different reservations. Every place is different. Every place is different. They do share some commonalities, but this place is especially unique. We're the last TOA speakers on the planet. And so part of what we're trying to do is make sure that this language is preserved. We talk a lot about cultural appropriation in society, and what I'm hoping we can collaborate and you know move on is cultural appreciation. I think it's really time to flip the script. And you know, again, if you're ever out in this area, you're gonna see beautiful art, amazing food, and just a great community that deserves a wonderful school like this.
That's awesome. So is that something that you bring into the like the day-to-day education? Do you have like cultural education classes as well as your normal? school subjects, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We do have one class a day that is the TOA speaking class. It's a
Mhm.
language class. We're working with the Jemez, the Department of Education here, to try to ensure that our students are being assessed accurately. So that's something that's new to me. I've done assessments, but one thing to keep in perspective is the language is something that's unique and treasured only to the people here of the Pueblo, right? So it's kind of disrespectful and not appropriate for outsiders like myself
Mhm.
to learn the language. And then another thing another layer of difficulty is that it's not a written language.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine the assessment and the
Yeah.
classes, they have to be taught by individuals who really understand the foundations of the language and
Mhm.
the important aspects of what needs to be preserved. And so again, it's a challenging setting in that respect,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
it's fun and it's cool, it's unique, and the students are having a good time doing that. We also have support in our classes. The majority of our educational assistants are TOA speakers as
Oh,
well.
wow.
And so it helps us to ensure that our students have a good foundation in the language they're speaking at
Mhm.
home, as well as getting the English components that they need to fulfill their everyday curriculum, math, science, language arts, social
Yeah.
studies, and such.
That's so interesting. Does that lead into how you hire, like who you hire for your teachers and staff? I know you said like a lot of the assistants are local, but what about the teachers and different staff as well?
Yeah, honestly I haven't been here long enough for the hiring process. I'm gonna go on that path here in the next month. But I think that's been traditionally what the school has tried to accomplish is to definitely hire, at the very least, have an educational assistant that has that background in
Mhm.
the language. Our staff right now, it's very diverse. And when I say diverse, we even have an individual from the Philippines
That's awesome.
teaching in our class. And so I think it's a testament to the how the community embraces diversity,
Hmm.
but it is important to have those individuals that are from the community that do represent our students, that do understand the language and the traditions of this culture. So I would say yes. I think whenever I start with the hiring and rehiring process going into this coming school year, it's important for me to be cognizant and pay close attention to the individuals that are applying to
Hmm.
ensure that our students do have the best supports and the best educators that we can provide here at this school.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sure it's like a fine line to make sure you have the right mix of without offending anybody, but also like being fair.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. When I stepped foot into what I consider sacred land, right? This
Hmm.
is this
Yeah.
is sacred land. I think my perspective, like I can't speak for other leaders, but I'm always trying to be respectful of other people's homes,
Hmm.
right? Like that was how I was raised.
Right.
And I'm always asking people, whether it's parents, whether it's the governors here,
Hmm.
tribal leaders, anybody, any part of the community. Hey, if you see me doing something that you don't think is appropriate, if you see me saying something that you don't feel is appropriate,
Hmm.
call me out on that. I'm here to learn. I'm a visitor in your home,
Right.
and I want to make sure that I'm learning and I'm doing the things in accordance with what your expectations are, even if I disagree with them, right? Like they
Yeah.
open their home to me. I always kind of look at it from the perspective of like some folks have you take off your shoes whenever you come into somebody's
Right.
house. That was my grandmother, right?
Yeah, that's my house.
Yeah, right. And then some folks are like, when you have your own home, you can do whatever you want. You want
Yeah.
cats in the house. And so it's not really a matter of me disagreeing. It's more of what would you like to see preserved here in the
Hmm.
community? And how can I help sustain that and support that? Because that's an important thing, sustainment, right? We
Right.
want to look at that cultural sustainment. How do we preserve it and how do we sustain it?
Yeah, that makes total sense. That actually leads into my next question. I was going to ask how you build relationships with parents, but it seems like you kind of already answered that. You're on like making sure you're doing things that you're not offending anybody. And have you had being as an outsider, as you said, has it been a challenge getting the community to accept you?
Um, I don't feel that me as an individual that's been an issue with. I think some of the methodology that I'm trying to bring to the school,
Mhm.
it's seen as something that they're not used to,
Mhm.
right? And so, first off, I'll just say building relationships, I think, is pretty fairly easy. We're a really small school in a really small community, and it's a grassroots effort. I was raised in a really small town called Roy, New Mexico, up in northeastern New Mexico. I wear that badge with pride. When I was there, I graduated with like 13 students, and the last 10 years, it's been between like 1 and 3 graduates.
Oh,
I
wow.
think this year we have maybe 2 seniors, and so like I know what it takes
Hmm.
to support and to understand communities, especially of this small size. And so that relationship building is grassroots efforts. It's show up to the basketball games. It's
Hmm.
show up to the feast days and the
Right.
functions. It's real again. It's not about me really disagreeing or agreeing with anything. It's just making sure that I have a presence there, and that folks do know that I'm here to help support them. Again, I'm a visitor here, and I'm trying to make sure that their ideas and what they see for the future of their people is sustainable. And so this isn't some place where I will be able to move eventually, right? Like even if I
Right.
wanted to, this is exclusive to the people of the Pueblo, and I respect that. And so again, everything we do here is really grassroots, and there's been a few parents that have stopped me over the last few weeks and said, "Hey, have you thought about this, or have you thought about doing this?" I think one of the things that might be new, if I could give an example about anything, is the way that I deal with behavior. I
Hmm.
was trained with restorative practices,
Oh,
and I truly believe in them, especially working with high at risk populations.
hmm.
For in Albuquerque, I just the data speaks for itself, and I think traditionally people look at those punishments or disciplines in a really negative way, right? Like
Hmm.
somebody would do something like say vaping or fighting, and then all of a sudden it's like this they call it a 5 day suspension, but I'm like, wait a minute, you just gave them a vacation,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we don't get
Correct.
to see them, we don't know if they're well, we don't
Right.
know if their parents are home. And a lot of the times when I had conversations with students in the past, before I became a charter leader and had that kind of control, I would ask students like, "What did you do during this time?" And it was like nothing. Played
Yeah.
video games.
Right.
Like you didn't do any homework. No, what
Yeah.
for? Yeah. And so with the restorative practices, it's really collaborative
Hmm.
with community members, especially here in the Pueblo. We're going to start working more closely with the governors and the tribal councils. They have individuals here, which they call fiscales, which is a new concept to me, and they're kind of like I guess the way I can describe them is they're like holy men, but they also take on the responsibility of kind of playing like that father figure or that
Hmm.
authoritative figure. And so I'm working out ideas on how we can be more collaborative with our students from the Pueblo and having those individuals presence, because they are seen as these highly respected leaders in the
Hmm.
community. And they've been great. They've come in, they've introduced themselves, they've been here a few times, and they to me they're mentors, they're coaches,
Yeah.
right? They are these father figures that
Hmm.
maybe some of our students here don't otherwise have in their home, and they just have this high respect and reverence for them. And so to have that ability to work with them, I think really is going to connect those pieces on how we can help support our students, whether it's
Hmm.
behavior or attendance or anything else. And so, yeah, going the restorative route, this is going to be a new journey for me with incorporating folks that I never had
Right.
part of
Yeah.
these programs, and it's highly collaborative with the student, right? Ultimately, the student has to shoulder their responsibility.
Hmm.
There's community engagement. In some instances, unfortunately, we do have to send students home if we feel like they're a risk to themselves or other
Right.
students here. But we want to stray away from that, because the most important thing is to have students here in school. Otherwise, they're not getting their education that they deserve.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I love that. I think that it it helps inspire the students just like to learn and learn from their mistakes and try to improve. So I think that's great. Do you think a lot of those cultural things that you're learning, if you do go to a different school, do you think any of those you'll bring with you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we're in New Mexico and it's home for me. So I've grown up with folks from every corner of this state. And what I realized is everybody kind of has their own underlying culture, right? There's these
Mhm.
subcultures within the cultures.
Right.
And I think having the ability to navigate, that idea that kind of gives people a perspective, gives me a perspective on what I should be more aware of when I
Mhm.
step into somebody's own backyard, right?
Right.
I know where I call home, but even that is something that I didn't realize until I started getting into education. Even what I consider home, other folks see it in a different way.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have to respect that. I really do. But yeah, like all the skill set here, networking, working with people, giving people an outlet. Sometimes people just need a vent, right? And
Yeah.
and they see me, being that I'm running the school now, they see me as that person that they feel they want to vent to.
Hmm.
One of the things that I notice here is there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot
Hmm.
of trauma from the past, and I won't get into the history
Hmm.
of our Native Americans and our Pueblos and our communities here, but a lot of that trauma has been passed on generationally,
Hmm.
and I do a lot of that restorative practice where we do try to talk about some of these things because I think it has been taboo of, you bottle it up and
Right.
we just carry it with us. And here I want to make sure that students and families, if they need to, are heard. And I could just give you a quick example. We were doing a quick restorative circle our first session, and the question was, who is somebody who inspires you? And that's when I really realized how much trauma was here because previously being a part of a circle where you talk about
Mhm.
people who inspire you, it's really exciting and it's
Yeah.
uplifting and it's I want to tell you about this person. We had some students that recognized who they look up to and who inspires them, and it got very emotional. There were some tears that were shed, and it's because they have so much respect and love for these people, right? The
Hmm.
people in their lives. And I get it. We get choked up too when we talk about some of those
Yeah.
folks. But to see some of the people here, I didn't want to pry too much because it was our
Hmm.
first session.
Right.
But a lot of it was, they don't share how they feel with people, or
Hmm.
some of these folks are just so busy they don't know how they're going to react to them
Right.
saying that. And so it's just interesting, but I'm hoping that I can open this place as an opportunity for folks to be able to come in and speak their mind, uh,
Yeah.
and hopefully get over some of the things, or at least cope with some of the things I should say, that has gone on traditionally, with places of culture such as Jemez Pueblo.
Yeah, it seems like you're on a good start if they're willing to be that open from like the first session. I think
Sure.
that like that's a huge it shows how much of a difference you've already made in the community that they were like willing to open up and talk with you, especially if they're not used to opening up and talking. I think
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the things I discovered here, I mean, I had the distinct pleasure of getting to say that I'm one of the only persons in the state that got to work at the two oldest charter schools
yeah,
in Mexico, right?
yeah,
Turquoise
that's
Trail
awesome.
Charter School and San Diego Riverside were both chartered at about the same time. But the reason why I bring that up is this school, prior to it becoming a charter school, I believe it was a religious school. It was a Catholic school.
Oh
And
wow.
so the teachers that used to be here were the nuns, and so everything that you're thinking that comes with that
Yeah.
territory, from the rulers to the,
Yeah.
I would have parents that would come up to me, and they still do, and even some of our teachers that are here with us, they'd say, I went to school here, and we had the nuns, and they would bring the rulers with them, and
Hmm.
they would smack you with them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is horrible. But it seemed to be like a place that was kind of caught up in time because it seemed like that ideology, that idea
Hmm.
kind of extended way past where other places probably it fizzled out, right? Like
Yeah.
that stuff wasn't welcome anymore. So, and I try to keep my humor.
Mhm.
I know it's probably not the right place and right time all the time, but I always joke with the teachers and the students. I'm like, if we're not doing our jobs, I'm bringing the nuns back.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, no, please God,
Yeah.
no.
It just shows how much of a change it. When did they switch from the Catholic school to the charter school?
So I know that this was chartered. I believe the school was chartered in 1999, if I'm correct. It was like
Okay.
1998, 1999, and it was part of that charter movement. I
Hmm.
don't. I'm still digging into the history. I can't tell you when that idea of having the nuns
Yeah.
run a school. I want to say it went into the 90s.
Oh, wow. That is a
And
long
there's
time.
there's remnants still here. There's an older building where they used to stay, and the church, which is beautiful, the churches that they
Mhm.
dedicated themselves to, those are still remaining and very rooted in the culture here. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if this was one of the last places where they had that kind of the nuns teaching almost
Yeah.
boarding school type of
Yeah, it
setting.
definitely sounds like it could be. What are some other challenges you've had, like overcoming issues and changes in the school?
Yeah, man. Gosh, I think it's all perception.
Hmm.
I think that's the hardest thing, right? Not just talking about the way that we go about disciplinary issues here, but um, I think the way that people perceive things when they don't know things or they don't know who you are, things can easily be kind of thrown out. Like we're a small community, board members are from the community, and so in a traditional school, I also serve on a board. I'm the board chair
Hmm.
for Solari Collegiate. Um, I don't really know a lot of things with the school as far as the day-to-day function, other
Hmm.
than what our leader, who is a great leader, Rachel Swords, out at against Solari Collegiate Charter School, got to give her a shout out. She's been kind of underlying mentor for me, and being on the board has given me like firsthand professional development. But yeah, I think the way that people perceive things and maybe just being I don't want to say stuck in
Hmm.
the old ways, but like that's all you know. And
Right.
I don't blame them for having skepticism or for not understanding why there are certain things that certain ways that we handle certain things here at the
Yeah.
school. I think getting folks on board. There were a few folks that it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I think what we have to do is we have to always strive to be better. Even when things are working, we should always look at things and say, is this working at 50%, 60%?
Right.
Are we optimizing our opportunities here? Because at the end of the day, anything that we do, decisions that we make here, students are always at the heart of it, right?
Hmm.
I've always told my students, that we don't do what's easy, we do what's right.
Hmm.
Doing what's right is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work, and so getting folks to buy into these mentalities, that growth mindset, I think those are the challenges that we're
Mhm.
faced, because a lot of families here went to this school prior, so that's their only experience that they have, and now they haven't really had a lot of consistency with leadership over the last handful of years, and so
Yeah.
now I'm stepping in, and I can imagine what's going through. Oh, here's a new guy. He's got his new ideas. We did this already 3 years ago. Again, looking at that sustainment, in order for this to work, I need to be around a little bit longer, right?
Right.
And so I'm hoping that the longer I'm here, folks
Hmm.
will be a little bit more understanding, as to some of the methodology behind
Hmm.
what we do and how we do. I think the teachers have done a really great job in trusting me, and that's a big thing too, right? Trust.
Hmm.
Here's an outsider coming into our Pueblo. We've seen this before, and then just like that, they leave. I'm very honest with folks. I don't know how long I'll be here. I know the
Hmm.
Public Education Commission, who oversees our charter and either denies or grants it,
Right.
either 3 or 5 year. I know they keep bringing up like we're going to see him here for 10 years, and and I'm like, gosh, I'm planning on retiring maybe in 7 or 8. So
Yeah.
think we're extending that limit, but they understand how important it is to have consistency here.
Hmm.
And so what I'm trying to build are programs over the next few years and a system that is sustainable, it's viable, and it's easy for somebody to step in, and take it over, right?
Right.
Or in the event that I have to step away for a certain period of time,
Hmm.
that same thing that I did in my class. I believe in autonomy. When
Hmm.
I was a classroom teacher, I created what I called the autonomized classroom.
Hmm.
Uh, Students eventually built these great habits, graded themselves. They took learning into their own hands. And so
Hmm.
I'll tell you, substitutes loved coming to my classroom because that autonomized system that I had in there, allowed substitutes to come in and just make sure that they were there to observe,
Hmm.
be the adult in the room,
Yeah.
accountability. I remember some subs would tell me, I don't know what just happened, but I stepped into your class and a student jumped up and said, "Are you the sub?" And they say, yeah. I said, don't worry, we got this. Just have a seat over there. We'll let you know if we need you.
Right.
And so building that type of sustainability within where I'm at is
Yeah.
really critical. I want folks to not have to feel like they need to rely on me. I am here.
Mhm.
I'm doing, for once in my life, I'm pushing more papers.
Yeah.
I do prefer to be in the classrooms and hands-on.
Mhm.
I want to be with my students. I want to be with my teachers. But again, it's setting up everybody for success.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes when leadership leaves, or a teacher leaves, it's the same
Mhm.
way. You kind of restart and restart and restart. And a lot of good things are lost with that.
Yeah.
So again, what I'm hoping to do is make sure that everybody's on the same page and knowing that whoever steps in, hopefully when that day comes, it'll be somebody that's already here that they can
Right.
keep everything going. And I don't have to be searching for a million files or
Yeah.
asking a million questions. They know what it looks like, and it's simple for them to just step right in.
Yeah. Do you think that's been one of your biggest challenges going into a school where they have had so much leadership change back to back? Has that been a big challenge, or are there other big challenges you faced?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good call out. That's yeah, the inconsistency within any system is going to throw anybody off. And like I'm a former athlete as well. Like it's systems, right? It's plays. You run the right play. You have a good coach, you have a good core, you're going to go far, and you keep that. It's building culture. Again, we talked about
Mhm.
subculture. It's building that culture here. We have to have our own set of culture and
Right.
expectations for each other, and we help each other, and we have high expectations for each other. But yeah, that inconsistency is so difficult to deal with.
Mhm.
There's opportunity within it, and um again, I'm not saying that my way is what's right, by any means. I don't want to say that. I think what I try not to lose sight of is that it's sustainable. Right. The
Mhm.
two things that I look at, and I've said them a million times, it's sustainability and the
Yeah.
consistency that builds programs. You can have a curriculum that's not very good, but if you're consistent with it, you're going to see some good results, right? Decent at least. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I've seen that as an educator myself. Unfortunately, it's only happened to me maybe once or twice. So I guess maybe I'm the fortunate one because I know I've heard colleagues where they're like, I'm on my fourth boss," right?
Yeah.
That's happened to a lot of folks here. There's some individuals that have been on our staff here for 15, 20 years. And they're like, gosh, I've seen this leader and this leader and this
Mhm.
leader. And it's like, and then I'm being compared to that, right?
Right.
Naturally, I step in and it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
not this person and they didn't do it this way. It's difficult to get past that in some
Yeah.
way because there are some things that folks do like, and they weren't very successful at it, but they still
Right.
liked it. And so now I gotta convince them, like, hey guys, even though this was easy, or this,
Yeah.
you liked this, it wasn't yielding the results we needed. We have to really have a discussion on this. And so, but yeah, like I say, that's an excellent call out. When you don't have the consistency there, expectations are dropped. The culture
Mhm.
just hits a low point, and then folks like me try to step in. There's some great leaders around our state. There's folks like me that try to step in and say, okay, how do we keep some of these things? When I first stepped in this role, I think a lot of folks are naturally afraid, like, who is this guy? We don't
Yeah.
know who he is. I think there was some chatter just naturally of like, I heard he's gonna come in and get rid of everyone and start from scratch. And no, that's never been my philosophy. Like we have to observe sometimes. And so
Right.
my first few weeks here was basically saying, I'm not gonna change anything because I don't know what needs to be fixed.
Right.
I need to observe stuff. And I'd say that observation point kind of hit that mark for me in January going into
Mhm.
February. And then it was more, okay, here's some ideas. And I'm not one of those leaders that's like, we're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
There's very few things that I budge on. Things that I knew as a teacher, I'm like, guys, we have to do these like three things. These
Right.
three things. But almost anything else that we do, we bring it back to the staff.
Mhm.
There was some kind of a behavior deal that they had here. I don't remember what it's called, but the teachers were running off of it, and one teacher liked it.
Mhm.
And I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is okay. Like I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
doing this. But the other teachers are like, we hate it. It takes so much time out from what we should be doing. There's
Mhm.
different ways we can do this. And so we had a conversation about it, and we said, is anybody really doing this with fidelity? And they were like, no.
Yeah.
We just it'd be great if we can get rid of it. So I said, let's punt it. Let's get rid of it. We'll revisit for next year. We'll see if
Yeah.
we want to do that. But I was kind of with the rest of the staff. I said, yeah, I can see where this program works with the little kids, but getting into middle school, it's also,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I understand the middle school and high school levels a little bit better because that's where I've
Hmm.
spent my entire career.
Right.
And so, just to call it like they call it, they'll look at certain programs and be like, "This is whack, man. This
Yeah.
stinks. What are you doing to us?" And it's like, "Yeah, I get it. We're trying to teach you guys like your little kids, and
Yeah.
they want more responsibility. That's why some of
Hmm.
them do get in the trouble that they do. So again, bringing it back. I always make sure we check in with the staff. Is this something we all want to do? If everybody's not on board, it's not going to work, right? It's
Yeah.
not worth doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it to like make sure you have your support, your staff support you. Do you have any, now that you've been there for a couple months, do you have any like big long-term plans? I know you don't know how long you'll be there, but like any things that you are hoping to see happen while you are there, or things you're looking, projects you're working on, or any specifics for the future?
Yeah, yeah. So first off, yeah, we're not bringing the nuns back. That's for dang sure.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No. When I first stepped foot out here, the first thing that I looked at, the first thing that stood out to me, not just the school but the community, is art.
Mhm.
And I think that's true of any of the pueblos, any of the cultural places that you see in New Mexico, right? Whether it's Native American or Hispanic or African American. There's or subcultures anywhere in between, right? I'm an artist myself. I'm a
Mhm.
musician and I'm an artist, and my dad is also an artist. And so naturally, those are things that really stick out to me. And so what I would like to see here is for us to really showcase what our community, what our kids are capable of. Right
Mhm.
now, they're doing pottery, and when I say pottery, I don't mean that lightly. Like our little kids, kindergarten all the way up to
Mhm.
eighth grade, they're doing pottery, and it's not just as simple as I hate to say it this way, but I had an art class or two
Mhm.
growing up in certain schools that I was in, and sometimes it was like, here's some clay, kid,
Right.
make whatever you want, and you
Yeah.
make a bowl or you make a plate or you make a little
Yeah.
figure or stuff. Not here. This is very thought out and it's culturally relevant, and so the other day I stepped in and I was like, hey, Mr. John shouldn't be doing your artwork for you, and it was like,
Right.
no. This is their artwork. This is their pottery. We're lucky to have a world-renowned artist with us, Mr. John Toya. He does pottery. He does art like you go across the board, canvas, murals. He's world-renowned. People know who
That's
he is, and he's the one that's teaching our art class. And he does some amazing things I've never seen any other school do.
awesome.
I came from another art school, and
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, there were some great things in there, and they were led by
Yeah.
a fantastic artist as well. But to have the cultural aspect of that
Mhm.
here, especially so young. Again, I walked in, I think it was a fourth grader, and they said, let me talk to you about my spirit. I think they're called like a spirit bowl. Um,
Mhm.
and it's got all the elaborate designs and symbology, symbolism of the culture, and they're explaining to me not just that they made this bowl. They're sitting there
Yeah.
telling me this is what this symbol means to my
Awesome.
people, and this is why I placed it on there. They actually get the clay from the river,
Oh,
so
wow.
everything is they try to keep that cultural connection of how the people did things 100, 300, 500
Yeah.
years ago. They're sourcing their material straight from the river. They have the how would I say, the facilities? I don't want to get the wrong terminology here,
Yeah.
but they fire them in. They don't have a fancy kiln.
Right.
Some of them do because they do so much pottery, but a
Mhm.
lot of it is really the way that their ancestors were doing this hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So to see
That's
young
awesome.
kids have that connection, it's inspiring. Like I go home and I'm like, I'm a better artist because I see
Right.
our kids and what they're doing, and they just inspire me to go and be creative and try to have some form of a connection that means
Mhm.
something to me, but also that other people can connect with. And that's what
Yeah.
I see here. And then the language would be the other one. We have to preserve the language. That
Mhm.
language is art.
Right.
It's art, and so I'm really looking to see if we can put these programs in different perspectives for people
Hmm.
because it's so difficult. The balance here is getting them what they need so that they can go out into the world and
Right.
be successful in trade school, in college, in the jobs that they're going to pursue. Now, eventually, we want those kids to come back to the program,
Hmm.
but it's important for them to have the language. So we're trying to find the balance, and that's another challenge is
Hmm.
finding the balance of teaching them the TOA language, but also getting them to understand the English language, which you're going to see
Right.
in all these other sectors, right? And so, but yeah, we want our kids to come back to our community, and that language component is going to be critical. We're going to look at after school programs, and I know one of the schools here in New Mexico embarked as a high school, native high school that embarked on a bilingual SIL. We have a bilingual SIL for Spanish, and we don't give bilingual SILs through middle school. It's something that they earned in high school. But
Hmm.
I'm hoping that maybe we can start laying the foundation where we can get like a pre-SIL, which
Yeah.
basically they can take with them and say, I have, a foundation in my understanding. I have a certain level of proficiency that will set me up for success going to the next level and hopefully earning that bilingual SIL when I'm done with high school.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think it sounds like you've done a good job of trying to get trying to find that balance between the culture and education, but not losing the culture. I know so many cultures are being lost right now. So I think it is really important through art and the fact that the fourth grader wanted to tell you what it all means. I think that just shows how like much they respect you and like that you do want to learn. You're not just there. You're actually like you want to be there. I think that's huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like you said, it's cool because most of the time we're the ones asking the questions. Hey, what did you
Yeah.
do here? Show me, explain. And that was something that we talked about with the staff, which is to put a kid in a language class, whether it's TOA or Spanish or any other
Mhm.
class, some folks don't understand the importance or the connection, right? They just see it as it's a language class. I got to do. And so what I'm trying to get our students and our staff to buy in is by embracing the cultural arts
Mhm.
it allows them to connect more with their heritage and their culture. And
Mhm.
so when they do put these art pieces together or they attend the class, their language class, they have a deeper sense of understanding and
Mhm.
respect. And it's not just a simple, I need to learn this so I can talk to my grandma.
Right.
It's that they understand, gosh, my language is a dying language.
Mhm.
I'm some of the last of the keepers of this, and giving them the importance to those art, right? I'm hoping they make drums, and I'm hoping they make
Right.
instruments that are a part of their culture. We want to do podcasts. I
Yeah.
think they had this here at some point, and we want to be able to have them embrace their culture and speak their language. And so through channeling that through those different opportunities, I think it'll just strengthen our language program, and really give the kids more of a connection on why that's so important.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It seems like I'm sure that's a challenge to like figure out, but it seems like you're on the right track. And the longer you're there, hopefully you'll just be able to build that up
Yeah.
and even more. Do you have any advice or tips for someone who's wanting to become a charter school leader?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know we always distinct like charter school leaders from leaders, right? And I
Yeah.
get it. I'm in a chart. I think a leader is just a leader. Whether you're in a charter school, a public school, a private school, whether you're in a band, whether you're on a basketball team, football team, volleyball team, a leader is a leader. And I think what you need to do as an individual is just be the best person you can be and challenge yourself to be the best leader, be the best human that you can be every single day. Be better than you were the day before. Now, as far as going into the charter world, I think just being specific, every charter is built off of a different mission and vision,
Mhm.
and rightfully so. And after learning about what charter schools are, that's something that I'm so grateful for being a part of, is that I've always wanted to challenge the status quo of things. Again, whether it was through art or through music, broadcast journalism, ranching, I want to challenge those standards, and I want to challenge the status quo of what people think anything can be. And I want students to be able to see that. I want them to embark on their own journey with challenging the status quo, right? Our students here are not just Jemez. That's a big part of who they are, and
Mhm.
they should embrace it. But each one of them is good at something, and they're unique.
Right.
It's the same thing with the leaders that step into this realm. Certain charter schools have a focus on art. Certain
Mhm.
charter schools have a focus on community. And what I would say is find the right fit. That's one of the most difficult things to do. I think anybody can be successful in any setting if they're willing to learn and have a growth mindset. But don't cheat yourself out as an individual and find the
Mhm.
right places for you. Through the years, I've been offered many opportunities.
Mhm.
I've been recognized and I have accolades as an educator, and that kind of opens those doors to show people like, oh, this guy really knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Even though, to be honest with you, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. I have to learn and go through the process.
Right.
But what I've been able to do is be selective
Mhm.
with the right setting, because if I'm in the right place, I can give 110% of who I
Mhm.
am. It's important for me to be accepted as a
Yeah.
person, right? And so there were some other schools early on in my career that are offering a lot of money to join it. And I said, I'm not going to be able to give my all because
Mhm.
you've already selected the curriculum or you've already given this,
Right.
even though it's going to be great and you're going to find the right person. Stay true to yourself. Stay
Yeah.
true to yourself and find the right fit. This journey is fun. It's challenging. If you like challenges, I would say charter schools are definitely a great place for folks.
Yeah.
But just bring your A game every single day, bring your uniqueness. And if, like I say, my talents, my gifts
Mhm.
are easily translatable to what I do here in this school, right? We're
Yeah.
all artists. We all see things in a different perspective. We all build that community. And the last thing I would say is listen to the people around you, right? Listen to the
Yeah.
people around you. We're public servants at the end of the day, even though
Mhm.
we have all this education, nothing neglects what people would like to see within their community and their school. I always remind students and parents, this is your school, this
Mhm.
is your community, this is ours. And what do you want to see? What
Yeah.
do you want to make? So keep an open eye and an open ear, and folks will give you some great perspective and great ideas that you can elaborate on. And so, yeah, and if you're thinking about being a charter leader, jump in. One of the best advice anybody gave me, they were a public school leader, that said, "Oh, just jump in head first." It's like
Mhm.
swimming, right? You're either
Yeah.
going to sink or swim, and if you
Right.
sink, there's going to be somebody to pull you up. But
Mhm.
I think that's the best way that I've learned the situations I put my place in where I've experienced success. I've jumped in head first. I've
Mhm.
tried new things. Some things didn't work. I acknowledged it. I fixed it. I moved on. But charter schools have been a great place for me, and I'm hoping to be in the charter school realm for a long time. Hopefully, retire as a charter school leader.
That's awesome. That sounds like such a good, well-rounded answer.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Have you noticed here or previously, like any big changes with the local government and state government with charter schools specifically? Because I know, like some places, I was doing another podcast with a charter school I live in Las Vegas, and I was doing a podcast with one of the local charter schools here, and she was just talking about how difficult it is working with like the Las Vegas city. And
Yeah.
is it the same in New Mexico?
I think every state's gonna always, whether it's charter school or what we call a regular public
Hmm.
education, because we are a public school, right? Charter schools are our public
Yeah.
schools. I think politics is always gonna like be a part of it. I've done policy my work as well, and I chose to do policy work not because I like the politics of it, but because I realize that's the core. Like there's folks making decisions and
Hmm.
they're not here living out what they've
Right.
decided on. And so to have the voice and have the platform, it's important. We teach our kids that too. Having your voice and speaking from the heart is very critical for people to
Hmm.
understand what we go through. Because if not, there are people that have never stepped foot on this pueblo and they're making decisions for these
Right.
kids and for us right now. Um, New Mexico's pretty fairly unique in that, we have a public education commission. There's two routes that you can become a charter
Mhm.
school. You can either be a district authorized school through, if you're a part of a larger district and this school just left their district,
Okay.
to become a state authorized
Mhm.
charter school. And so there's got to be accountability from somebody.
Right.
I think it just depends on where the school is set up because there's so much autonomy. I don't want to say so much, but there's a certain level of autonomy that
Mhm.
comes with charter schools. And if you don't know what you're doing, or worse yet, if you're not reaching out for help and you're not communicating to the people who have already been there before, you're doing yourself a disservice. I mean, I call people, I guess I've been here for a few months, and it's like I haven't talked to some of these folks in quite a while, and I'm on the phone. Hey, I landed over here. Hey, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I just got CPO certified. What does that even mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like every state, I think, has their own struggle and
Mhm.
challenges. New Mexico, what I think is really cool is the folks that we're chartered through the Public Education
Mhm.
Commission, PEC, the individuals that sit on that commission really do care about kids in our state, right? Like they're giving a service by providing that to sit on that committee or on that commission, and they hold us to a certain level of accountability. I think some folks really like the idea of, well, I should be able to do whatever I want, and I don't know. I really I've seen them come down on folks. I've seen districts come down on certain folks that aren't delivering, and we have expectations. And I think those mechanisms are put in place to ensure that the money that goes to schools for funding is being spent the best way. And I don't disagree with that. Um, I think there are situations that schools put themselves in, and they allow those negative things to kind of continue. So there's your consistency within
Yeah.
consistency, right? And like, what else are you to do? Again, I came from a school that unfortunately was closed down.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm upset because like I know what I was doing in my science program, and again being recognized and having
Right.
these accolades the same year that this school was kind of going under.
Yeah.
It was interesting to find that one foot in, one foot out. We were doing good things, but as a whole, apparently the school wasn't functioning the way it should have.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate. We had a great leaders there and folks who really understood kids, but all it takes is one section or one department to not deliver, and and then that's it. And
Yeah.
so like I understand the process, whether I agree or disagree with it. It's not something I really think about too much. I think what I would hope is that, folks are doing what's right by kids. And
Mhm.
it's difficult when you're trying to budget and try to do all these things and do what's right for kids. It's hard to make those choices.
Yeah.
But again, if you put yourself with a great team and you're communicating with the right people, you're destined for some success, and I think the important thing is to keep that going.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I like how everything keeps coming back to that consistency. It's like it just kind of gets that ingrained in your brain. Like
Yeah.
consistency is key. Before we wrap up, is there any last minute like advice you have or funny stories you want to share or books you recommend?
Yeah. Oh man. So it's been a surreal journey the last few years, right? Because you kind of get in that like you get in the comfortable zone. I'm a good teacher. I know what I was made of, and I built my place for that. It's hard to deal with certain places that maybe don't want you at a certain point, right? Like small communities. I've been trying to get back home, and I'll call it out. I'm very transparent. I would like to go back home. My family's there, our family ranch is there, and I realize that it's time for me to have to step up and start taking care of those things outside of my personal life. Um, it's almost like one of those, like, no matter how well you do, some folks just maybe
Yeah.
don't want you there, right? And like I'm okay with it. It just maybe it's not my time just then,
Right.
right? But I bring that up because like certain things are surreal. Like you see
Mhm.
things one way, and then all of a sudden that's not how it plays out. I thought I was going to be a teacher for the rest of my life. I mean, in a way, I am.
Right.
Always a
Yeah.
lifelong learner and always an educator. But like about a couple of years ago. before I even thought about being a principal, there were folks that I was looking into, and I have my heroes in education, just like
Hmm.
I have my favorite rock stars, right?
Yeah.
Folks that inspire me. But Hamish Brewer, if you don't know who Hamish Brewer is, go and look him up. They call him the tattooed skateboarding principal. I looked up to this guy for a handful of years when I discovered who he was. I was watching
Mhm.
every video, and then I would tell people like, "This is my hero.
Yeah.
This is my rock star of education right
Hmm.
here." And I have a picture up above me because I was able to meet him about
Awesome.
3 years ago, almost now, at a assessment convention. It was for the NAEP workshop or convention or something or another, and I was so excited because I'm like, Hamish Brewer is our keynote speaker, like, and I remember people going, "Who is he?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you know who he is?" You know, it's like when somebody tells you, like, we don't know who the biggest rock, we don't know who Def Leppard is, or we don't know who
Yeah.
Metallica is, or Linkin Park,
Right.
right? And it's like, you don't know who these guys are. They play them every day. So
Yeah.
Hamish was something that was like, he became a household name for me. And the minute I stepped foot in the building, he's the first person I ran into. And ironically, catty corner from him, speaking of a story, was a security guard. And that security guard happened to be one of my former students
Oh, wow.
who also happened to be one of my former brilliant students. And I mean that from my heart. And it was like me and Hamish caught eyes, and then I look
Yeah.
over the side, and there's me and Sean. And Sean's like, Mr. Dazzle, you know, that's my nickname. Everybody's always called me Joe Dazzle. Mr. Dazzle, what are you doing here? And I'm like, Sean. And I would share stuff with my students. You know,
Mhm.
I would share like Hamish Brewer. I'd be like, guys,
Yeah.
this is the guy right here. You got to look up to more people like him. And
Mhm.
anyways, I'm like, Sean, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm here to meet this guy. And you know, and he approaches me, and of course I'm in my challenge status quo. I'm in a leather jacket with my
Mhm.
scarf, and I look like I'm playing a couple blocks down at the launch
Yeah.
pad, right, ready for a rock show. And he looks at me, he goes, "Gosh, please tell me you're a teacher." And I said, "Worse, I'm a charter leader." And he was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is freaking awesome." And I said, this is weird because I'm going to introduce you to this student. And then another colleague of mine, Kathleen Moore, one of the best supports you're ever going to find, you know, counseling and social services. Somebody who I never thought I would work with, and I got to work with her. And I'm like, telling her prior to this conference, it's Hamish Brewer. And then she steps in, she was like, oh, apparently you found each other.
Yeah.
And it was like, all these people, it was me as a teacher, it was me as a leader, me as a human being, all being
Hmm.
connected at once with some of the people who I just have nothing but love and respect for.
Yeah.
And so the book I would recommend is Relentless. It's by Hamish Brewer. Um, I'm not gonna go into any chapter, and specifically, I would say that for anybody who wants to challenge not just an educational system, that wants to challenge a system that knows there has to be a better way,
Hmm.
that wants to be able to be them every single day coming in and not having to pretend to be somebody that they're not.
Hmm.
Um, Hamish Brewer's got the book for you. And yeah, go pick up Relentless. You don't have to become a tattooed skateboarding principal or leader. And he was even featured in a documentary or movie with Neil
Oh,
deGrasse
wow.
Tyson, one of my heroes, with Tony Hawk, professional skateboarder, again one of our heroes.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I don't have to be Hamish. I get to be myself. I get to
Yeah.
be the how would I don't know what the students call me, but the ghost busting, guitar playing, singer, songwriter, rancher, artist, principal,
Yeah.
right? Like you bring your own brand and
Okay.
you leave your own print
Yeah.
wherever you go. And I think folks will be inspired, teachers will be inspired, students will
Yeah.
be inspired. Like we were when we were growing up, they told us do one thing and get good at it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of folks out there that are good at a lot of different things. So I'd say
Yeah.
do anything you want to do, be anything you want to be, work hard, have a lot of love, be a good person, and you're destined to find your niche in life.
Yeah, I think that's great. I will definitely put the book in the episode notes. And I think you are definitely going to be one of those people that people look up to in the future. You kind of it sounds like you do it all. And just to close out, what is the name of your band?
Yeah,
And
so
are you still in the band?
I was with a hard rock band that got a lot of recognition called Blackwater Draw. We did that for 8 years, and then I embarked on a solo career as Joe Dan the Man. And now getting back to my roots, I've got Joe Dan, the Man in the Moonshine Band. I've got another kind of side project we call Prepare to Launch, kind of little hard rock project, and then we're going to celebrate 20 years of Blackwater Draw. So we're trying to bring all the folks that were original members
That's awesome.
and you know, supporting cast through the years to try to put an album out. We were a MySpace band at that
Oh,
point,
nice.
so yeah, like everything got lost. But we've got to
Yep.
share the stage with some pretty big names and some incredible bands locally and nationally. And I think really it's what we all try to do, build community. And so our music
Yep.
has always been about building community. So Blackwater Draw 20th anniversary, and then keep an eye out for Joe Dan, the Man in the Moonshine Band.
Yeah, we will definitely keep an eye out for all of those.
All
Th-
right.
Thank you so much for speaking with me. I had such a great time.
Hey, thank you. It was an absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And if anybody wants to come visit the Pueblo, let us know. We'd love to have you out here.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be so much fun to check out and just see what it's like. And we'll definitely be looking out for all your music.
Absolutely. Cheers. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you.